Welcome to Maxara. Tonight's case is classified as an urban legend. Status: unresolved. The following account is compiled from reported encounters, archived records, and reconstructed details. What you're about to hear is not an explanation. It's a record. This is the case of the black-eyed children. Initial classification. The phenomenon now referred to as the black-eyed children does not originate from a single incident, location, or witness. It emerges gradually through scattered reports that share no formal connection, no centralized record, and no agreed-upon interpretation. What binds these accounts is not chronology, but pattern. The reports describe children or adolescents, typically appearing between the ages of 6 and 16. Their clothing is usually described as ordinary and appropriate for the time period in which the encounter occurs. No distinctive markings are consistently reported. No identifying features beyond the eyes are emphasized. The eyes are described uniformly. They are entirely black, not dark brown, not dilated, not shadowed, completely black. Witnesses consistently describe the absence of sclera, iris, and pupil. In many accounts, the eyes appear flat, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. In others, witnesses state that they did not notice the eyes immediately, only becoming aware of them after a sense of unease had already set in. The children do not appear injured. They do not appear aggressive. They do not behave erratically. They ask for entry. Chapter 2. Early documented accounts. The earliest widely circulated report entered public awareness in the late 1990s. It was shared not as fiction, but as a personal experience, recounted by a journalist who described an encounter outside a cinema in Texas. According to the record, the witness was seated in his car when two boys approached. They requested money to see a movie, stating that they had forgotten their cash. Their voices were calm, controlled, and polite. It was only after the conversation began that the witness noticed their eyes. The report describes a sudden and overwhelming sense of fear, not panic, but certainty. A feeling that something was fundamentally wrong, without any visible threat to justify it. The witness refused the request and locked the vehicle doors. The boys reportedly became insistent, repeating their request and urging him to open the door. When the witness looked away briefly and then back again, the boys were gone. No sound of footsteps, no movement, no trace. This account, once published, prompted others to come forward, not immediately and not in large numbers. But gradually, similar reports surfaced, first through email lists, then message boards, and later through forums and archived discussion threads. Each account differed in detail. Each account aligned in structure. Chapter 3. The setting. Black-eyed children are not reported to appear in chaotic environments. They do not emerge from crowds, They are not seen in daylight marketplaces. They are not described in moments of noise or confusion. Instead, they appear at thresholds, front doors, apartment entrances, car windows, gas station forecourts, late at night, quiet residential streets. The time is often late evening or early morning. Some reports place the encounter shortly after midnight. Others describe the moments just before dawn, when activity is minimal and surroundings are still. Weather conditions are usually unremarkable. No storms, no dramatic fog, no supernatural markers. The environment is normal. That normality is frequently emphasized by witnesses, as if the ordinariness of the setting makes the encounter more difficult to rationalize after the fact. Chapter 4: Behavior and Speech. The children do not shout. They do not cry. They do not plead. They do not display visible distress, and they ask. The requests vary slightly, but follow a consistent pattern. They ask to come inside. Ask to use a phone. They ask for a ride and ask to wait somewhere warm. In several accounts, the children explicitly state that they cannot enter unless invited. The phrasing differs, but the implication remains. Witnesses frequently describe the voices as flat, emotionless, or overly controlled. Some note that the speech patterns do not match the apparent age of the children. Others report that the tone feels rehearsed, as though the words are being repeated rather than spoken spontaneously. There is rarely eye contact at first. When the eyes are noticed, the interaction often ends shortly afterward. Chapter 5: Psychological Response. Nearly all recorded encounters include a strong emotional reaction on the part of the witness. Fear is the most commonly cited response, but it is often described as unlike normal fear. Witnesses report a sudden sense of dread without identifiable cause, a pressure in the chest, difficulty speaking or moving, an instinctive urge to flee or close a door. Some report nausea, others report shaking. A small number report lingering anxiety lasting days or weeks. Importantly, many witnesses state that the fear began before noticing the eyes. The visual anomaly appears to confirm something already felt. Chapter 6: The Act of Refusal. In the majority of documented accounts, the witness refuses entry. The refusal is often instinctive, described as a reaction rather than a decision. Upon refusal, the children do not respond with anger. They do not threaten. They do not escalate visibly. They persist. The request is repeated. The tone remains calm. The demeanor remains controlled. Then, at some point, the encounter ends. The children leave or vanish. Several reports describe witnesses watching the children walk away, only to lose sight of them briefly, behind a car, around a corner, after which they cannot be found. Other accounts describe the children disappearing instantly when the witness breaks eye contact. No explanation is offered within the accounts themselves. Chapter 7: After Effects. In a minority of reports, witnesses describe events occurring after the encounter. These include nightmares, illness in pets, electrical malfunctions, and recurring anxiety associated with the location. These claims are inconsistent and not universally reported. Many witnesses experience no further events beyond the initial encounter. The lack of uniform aftermath complicates attempts to establish causation or meaning. As variations and expansion. The legend spread, variations emerged. Some accounts describe a single child rather than a pair. Others describe teenagers rather than young children. A few report adult figures with the same eye anomaly. Some describe the children as wearing outdated clothing. Others describe contemporary attire. Despite these variations, the core elements remain stable. The request for entry, the emotional unease, the eyes. This consistency across independent reports is often cited by those who believe the phenomenon represents more than coincidence. Others argue it represents narrative reinforcement, a modern folklore shaped and refined through repetition. Chapter 9. Attempts at classification. Various interpretations have been proposed within secondary discussions, though none originate from the primary accounts themselves. Some frame the phenomenon in folkloric terms, drawing parallels to threshold spirits, vampiric invitation myths, protective boundary folklore, and others suggest psychological explanations, including sleep-related hallucinations, fear conditioning, and memory contamination. No interpretation has been substantiated with physical evidence. No verified photographs exist. No recordings exist. No confirmed repeat encounters exist under controlled conditions. Chapter 10. Absence of evidence. There are no hospital records tied conclusively to these encounters. No police reports directly reference black-eyed children as described. No physical traces have been documented. The phenomenon exists almost entirely in testimony. Written accounts, personal recollections, archived posts, as variations and expansion. The legend spread. Variations emerged. Some accounts describe a single child rather than a pair. Others describe teenagers rather than young children. A few report adult figures with the same eye anomaly. Some describe the children as wearing outdated clothing. Others describe contemporary attire. Despite these variations, the core elements remain stable. The request for entry, the emotional unease, the eyes. This consistency across independent reports is often cited by those who believe the phenomenon represents more than coincidence. Others argue it represents narrative reinforcement, a modern folklore shaped and refined through repetition. Chapter 11. Attempts at classification. Various interpretations have been proposed within secondary discussions, though none originate from the primary accounts themselves. Some frame the phenomenon in folkloric terms, drawing parallels to threshold spirits, vampiric invitation myths, protective boundary folklore, and others suggest psychological explanations, including sleep-related hallucinations, fear conditioning, and memory contamination. No interpretation has been substantiated with physical evidence. No verified photographs exist. No recordings exist. No confirmed repeat encounters exist under controlled conditions. Chapter 11. Absence of evidence. There are no hospital records tied conclusively to these encounters. No police reports directly reference black-eyed children as described. No physical traces have been documented. The phenomenon exists almost entirely in testimony. Written accounts, personal recollections, archived posts. This absence does not confirm falsehood. It does not confirm truth. It defines the boundary of the record. Chapter 12. Persistence. Despite skepticism, reports continue to surface intermittently. They do not follow trends. They do not spike after major media coverage. They appear sporadically, often buried in unrelated discussions. Many witnesses express reluctance to share their experience publicly, citing fear of ridicule or dismissal. Some accounts appear years after the alleged encounter. The phenomenon does not demand belief. It persists regardless. Chapter 13. Closing the file. The black-eyed children occupy a space between folklore and lived experience. They do not announce themselves. They do not leave proof. They do not explain. They appear. They ask. They depart. What they are is not established. What they represent is not defined. The record contains no conclusion, only pattern, only testimony, only absence. This is not explanation. This is not confirmation. This is the case file as it stands. Chapter 14. Geographic distribution. Archived reports of black-eyed children encounters do not cluster around a single region. Accounts have surfaced across the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, and parts of continental Europe. A smaller number appear in Australia and South America, though these are less detailed and often second-hand. The lack of a geographic center complicates efforts to trace the phenomenon to a local tradition or cultural origin. Witnesses report encounters in suburban neighborhood, rural homes, apartment complexes, parking lots, and roadside stops. Urban density does not appear to increase frequency, neither does isolation. The phenomenon does not appear bound to a specific climate, culture, or architectural style. Doorsteps are mentioned as often as car windows. The threshold itself, rather than the structure, appears to be the defining element. Chapter 14. Temporal irregularities. While many encounters are described as brief, lasting seconds or minutes, some witnesses report distortions in their perception of time. In these accounts, witnesses describe losing track of how long the interaction lasted, being unable to recall exact sequences of speech, experiencing a sense that the encounter was longer than it should have been. Clocks are rarely referenced during the encounters themselves. When they are, discrepancies are sometimes noted afterward, though no two reports describe the same effect. These accounts are inconsistent and cannot be verified. They remain part of the record solely because they recur across unrelated testimonies. Chapter 15. Witness profiles. No single demographic dominates the archive. Witnesses include homeowners, drivers, students, professionals, and parents, or individuals living alone. Some witnesses report prior interest in paranormal subjects. Others state they had no such interest before the encounter. Several accounts emphasize skepticism prior to the event. These witnesses often describe reluctance to interpret the experience as anything beyond coincidence, even while acknowledging that it did not feel ordinary. There is no evidence that witnesses seek notoriety or material gain from sharing these accounts. Many are anonymous. Others use pseudonyms. Some accounts were reportedly shared only after encouragement from friends or family. Chapter 16: Animals and Environmental Reactions. A recurring but inconsistent element in some reports involves animals. Dogs refusing to approach doors, cats hiding or vocalizing, birds falling silent. These reactions are described during or shortly after the encounter, not before. In most cases, the animals do not exhibit long-term behavioral changes. The reaction is momentary, though strongly emphasized by witnesses who include it. Environmental anomalies, such as flickering lights or electronic interference, are reported far less frequently. When they are mentioned, they occur after the encounter rather than during it. No physical evidence links these effects directly to the presence of the children. Chapter 17: The Language of Permission. One of the most analyzed aspects of the black-eyed children accounts is the emphasis on consent. In multiple reports, the children do not attempt to force entry. They wait. They ask. They repeat. Some witnesses report phrases such as, "We can't come in unless you say it's okay. Let us inside. Just open the door." The language is simple, direct, devoid of emotional appeal. Whether this reflects a narrative motif inherited from older folklore or something else entirely is not addressed within the primary accounts. The record notes only that permission appears to be a boundary. Chapter 18: Denial and Disbelief. A number of witnesses describe doubting their own perception immediately after the encounter. They check mirrors. They review security footage, if available. They attempt to reconstruct the event rationally. In nearly all cases, no corroborating evidence is found. This absence often leads witnesses to question the validity of their memory. Some accounts end with the witness dismissing the experience outright, only to later revisit it when encountering similar reports from others. This delayed recognition contributes to the fragmented nature of the archive. Chapter 19: Secondary Witnesses. In a small number of cases, more than one person is present during the encounter. These accounts are rare but notable. In such cases, both witnesses report seeing the children, both acknowledge the eyes, and both report similar emotional responses. However, the recollections are never identical. One witness may recall speech more clearly. Another may focus on the environment. No account includes a large group of witnesses. The encounters remain intimate, isolated. Chapter 20: Cultural Contamination. As the legend gained visibility, concern arose regarding narrative contamination, the possibility that later reports were influenced by earlier descriptions. This concern is noted within the archive. However, some witnesses insist they were unaware of the phenomenon prior to their experience. In a number of these cases, the witness only discovered the term black-eyed children after searching for similar encounters. The archive does not attempt to resolve whether these claims are accurate. It records them. Chapter 21: absence of escalation. One notable characteristic of the phenomenon is its restraint. There are no confirmed reports of violence, no documented forced entry, no physical attacks. The tension described by witnesses does not culminate in overt action. This absence is as defining as the presence itself. The children ask, they wait, they leave. What might occur if permission were granted is not established within the archive. Accounts claiming otherwise remain speculative and are not included in this record. Chapter 22, Folkloric Parallels. Some archivists note similarities between the black-eyed children and older narrative archetypes. These include beings bound by rules, entities limited by thresholds, figures requiring invitation. Such parallels are noted, but not endorsed. The archive does not assert lineage. It does not claim continuity. It records resemblance only. Chapter 23, The Modern Context. The black-eyed children are a phenomenon of the modern era. They emerge alongside digital communication. They spread through written testimony. They persist without physical proof. Unlike older folklore, they do not adapt dramatically over time. The core narrative remains stable. This stability is unusual. Chapter 24. The silence between reports. Months or years may pass between new accounts. There is no predictable cycle, no seasonal trend, no escalation curve. The phenomenon does not seek attention. It appears, briefly, and disappears again. Final chapter. The final record entry. At present, the black-eyed children remain unclassified. They are not confirmed entities. They are not dismissed hallucinations. They are not resolved cases. They exist as reports, as testimony, as pattern. The archive contains no closing statement, only the acknowledgement that these encounters have been recorded, preserved, and left unresolved.